Thank you for joining us. Happy New Year. So here's all my information. Chris Holcomb, Heritage Financial Advisor in Columbia. We're right off of Columbia 100 Parkway. For those of you that haven't seen our new office, we moved here in August of 2021. There's our phone and email, of course, website as well. A little bit about us. I'm the branch manager. We have two folks working with us, Devin and Christy, which some of you have met. We just celebrated 10 years in August, so very happy about that. And we manage just over 57 million in assets. So we're growing. We always appreciate introductions. So if you know somebody that's not with us that would like to have a conversation about their financial plan or get some financial advice, we'd always appreciate that. So we're here to talk about Social Security. Social Security plays a really important role in retirement. So why do we talk about that? Well, for that reason, and really the more knowledgeable you are about Social Security, the better you are going to hopefully utilize the benefit that you've been contributing to and make sure that it's maximized for your family and what your goals are. So there's three main questions when it comes to Social Security. Will Social Security be there for me? I hear that all the time. When can I begin to collect Social Security? That's a popular question as well. And how much should I expect to receive? So we're going to dig into each one of those questions a little bit more detail, and probably it'll create some questions as well. And feel free to drop those in the chat if you want to. So here's an example of somebody who earned $43,000 a year and what their benefit would be. Now, your benefit is available to you on SSA.gov. So that's SSA, Social Security Administration.gov. If you haven't been there, I highly recommend that you visit the site, get your latest statement, make sure you understand what your numbers are. That is, what is your age 62 benefit? What is your full retirement age benefit, which is going to be 66 or 67, depending on your age. And then what is your age 70 benefit? So this is just an example of someone who earned $43,000 a year, and it didn't go up for a long time. It just stayed at 43. So that's not the case typically in this area. Typically it's a little bit higher. Right now, the maximum, if you retired in 2022 and you maxed out your Social Security, it'd be $3,345. So you're turning 66 in 2022. Your maximum security possible is $3,345. So one of the things that's important about Social Security, understand that it's paid for with payroll deductions. So it's a combination of your employer and employee deductions that are made into the account, okay? And that goes into a trust fund that's supposed to then pay you out this benefit when you retire. Now, there's always some concern about the trust fund, right? You see these reports, and I'm looking at the actual 2020 trustee report, and it says that the benefits are going to be at this time reduced in 2023 and only be able to pay out 76% of the scheduled benefits. So for many near retirees, that's probably not a huge deal. That means the bulk of your benefits will be paid out. But for folks that still have a long period of time to retire, probably the 30s and 40s, it's going to be a reduced benefit. Now, that's assuming nothing's done. We'd like to think that Congress, like they have in the past, will get together and solve the Social Security shortfall. But it is good to know that at least the current contributions that are coming in would be able to pay at least 76% in 2033. Like I said, in the past, Congress has fixed it, so hopefully they will again. They typically come together on this issue and do solve it. So we'll have to just wait to see on that one. But I do think Social Security will be there. I think it's an important part of a plan. It just may not be there in the same form that it is currently. So what's the future of Social Security? So how do they fix it? Well, there's a couple of ways to fix it. One is to increase the earnings amount. So right now, the earnings amount is the amount that's taxed for Social Security purposes is $147,000 even for 2022. In 2021, it was 142,800. So it does get indexed over time. So that's when you stop paying Social Security taxes. So they may raise that amount to whatever they think appropriate to make it solvent. Another thing they may do is raise the Social Security age. So if you're born after 1960, the age right now is 67. So maybe they raise it to 68. They step it up, graduated. You know, who knows what that would ultimately look like. But that's one way to fix it. And I think it's a legitimate way, especially as we our life expectancy continues to age, and we you know, as we get older and you know, expected to live a lot longer. That's, I think, is a certainly a possibility. The other thing is changing the formula. The changing the formula would be, and we'll show you in the next slide how that's calculated, how we get to that ultimate benefit. And the other one would be changing the cost of living adjustments. So to our delight, Social Security recipients, that is, there was a 5.9% increase this year. That's unusual. Normally it's about 2.6%, but there was a nice increase for folks this year. So we're happy to see that. So there's a lot of ways. There's other ways as well. There's a combination of those solutions that might work too, but this isn't new. These have been proposed for many years. Again, and hopefully Congress will make a fix before we get to that point. So here's a real conservative estimate of what Social Security could mean for an individual. This is $1 million benefit for someone who has who retires with 30 years, has 30 years in retirement and taking Social Security. A $2,000 benefit is a very average benefit for Social Security, so this is a very real example for many folks. But if you get $2,000 a month and it's indexed for inflation, very important point, and you can see that's a 2.6% cost of living adjustment over 10 years, that aggregates to a $300,000 benefit. If it's for 20 years, again, assuming a cost of living adjustment for 2.6%, that's a $600,000 benefit. And for 30 years, it's $1 million. So that's a very significant part of a plan. And when we do our plans for clients, we certainly include that and don't discount that that's a guaranteed benefit with an inflation adjustment for your lifetime. Again, very powerful story. And for some folks, it's the only pension type income they'll have. So it's nice to know that we have some folks guaranteed. Now, and again, this is just one spouse potentially. If two married and there's two folks in the family, then potentially there's the same benefit being paid out to the second spouse. So again, very, very helpful in retirement. So this is a calculation. We're just going to look at a high-level view of how the formula for calculating the retirement benefit amount. So this is a really important point. Your top 35 years are included in the Social Security calculation. So if you were out of the workforce for a few years and you don't have 35 years, then when you get back in the workforce, obviously that can help you accumulate that. And that could be for lots of reasons, right? Take care of kids, take care of parents, unemployed for whatever reason. But it's really important to know that your top 35 years is what's included in this calculation. So if you have zeros, obviously that's going to bring down that total earnings. And then that's called your average indexed monthly payment, AIM. They use that to create your PIA, which is your primary insurance amount. So you take that average, you get 90% of the first $960 of that average, and then you get 32% of the next $960 to $57.85, and then $57.85 and above is only 15% of the calculations. So remember what I said before, that regardless of what that adds up to, the max for 2022 is $3,345. So that does get indexed over time. So even if your calculation is over that, your PIA, then that's all the funds you'll see in your account. But it's just, they call them bend points. So what they're trying to do is give more money to the lower income folks. And that's why they give a higher weighting to the first 960, a little bit lower weighting to 960 to 5785, and then the smallest weighting for over that amount. So here's some really important charts. So for folks that have the full retirement age at 66, by the way, your PIA, primary insurance amount, equals your full retirement age at whenever that is, age 66 or 67. So if your full retirement age is 66, you'll notice that you get 100% of your benefit if you scroll down at age 66. Obviously, it makes sense. If you take the benefit early, you take it at 62, your benefit is reduced to 75%. So that's really important to understand, because I'll have some clients that say, well, I've paid into this all my life. I want to make sure I get whatever I can. And I just wanted to communicate to them that that's a 25% permanent reduction. So that's really important to know. Now, the only time that really makes sense is if there's a serious health issue and there's not a long retirement expected. You've been told, or you have a condition or a combination of conditions that you conclude that I'm really not going to live that long, so I want to take my Social Security early. So that's the most popular reason I see that. But for folks that have a normal or above average life expectancy, you certainly want to plan to take your Social Security at your full retirement age to get 100% benefit. So if you're born after 1960, your full retirement age is age 67. So you see that in the column to the right, age 67, you get your 100% benefit, whatever that is. So I try to have my clients wait as long as they can, especially the higher income client. I really encourage them to wait to take Social Security. So what happens if you wait? You notice on age 66 that you get an 8% bonus every year. Now that's a guaranteed increase. All right, that's really important, because think about your risk tolerance as you age. You tend to be less aggressive, more moderate, more in your investment. How much risk you're willing to take. So the Social Security Administration is going to guarantee an 8% increase for waiting every year. So the potential for a 66, someone who's full retirement age is 66, is 132% of their full retirement age amount. For someone retiring at 67, it's only 124%. But it still behooves you, if you can, and if it makes sense based on your life expectancy, to let at least the higher income spouse wait until they can get their full retirement to get their max before they actually start taking Social Security. So I just wanted to spend a little bit of time, kind of camp on that a little bit and talk about it. Let's see, I got a couple of questions here. So we got. Okay. Okay. Are these percentages still subject to the cap at $3,345? Yes, that's the maximum right now. That's the maximum payment. Next year, it'll go up a little bit. But that is the maximum Social Security payment right now. It's $3,345. So in regards to the 2033 comment that I made, so that is regard to a Social Security trustees report that came out for 2021. In that report, they said that only 76% of your benefit will be payable in 2033 based on no changes to the current program. Okay. I suspect that changes will come, that Congress will actually make changes and it'll fix it. But right now, again, this is based on the Social Security trustees report. So let's just say hypothetically your benefit was $1,000, then you'd only get $760 if it's still the same situation at that time. That's what that report's saying. Okay, on to the next slide. So another kind of way of saying what we were looking at before, when to apply. So the early retirement age we're referring to is 62. So if you are a full retirement age of 66 and you apply for Social Security at 62, remember from the chart before, you're only going to get 75%. Okay, you're only going to get 75% of your full amount, your primary insurance amount, whatever that calculation is. If you wait, now there's no COLAs in that. So from 62 to 66, there's no cost of living adjustments. The cost of living adjustments don't benefit you till your full retirement age, which would be 66. But then after that, you have your 75% benefit of the full amount, plus you have the cost of living going forward. So it's just really important to understand that if you take it early, okay, and this would be 62 for both folks retiring or full retirement age of 66 or 67, you're only going to get a 75% benefit for folks retiring at 66, and it's actually only a 70% benefit for folks who were supposed to get their full retirement at 67. Okay, so notice the full retirement age, the next row, you get 100% of your calculation, your PIA calculation from a previous slide. That's your full retirement age. And then if you wait, then in the next years, in the future years, you get your 100% primary insurance amount plus the cost of living. And that's what happens throughout the future. If you wait, so you wait till 1 year after your full retirement age, again, whether it's 66 or 67, so you'd wait till you're 67 or 68, you get 108%, again, just referring back to the previous slide, of your calculated amount. And then every year after, you get 108% plus your cost of living. So if you waited 2 years after your full retirement to take your benefit, then you get 116%. Or if you waited 3 years, you get 124%. So that's very compelling reason to wait. Again, assuming you got a good life expectancy and that you it makes sense to do that, your family finances will let you do that. I always recommend that the higher income spouse wait. Because here's what happens. When there's a death in the family and you have two folks taking Social Security, the lower check goes away and the higher check then passes on to the surviving spouse. So that's why I really emphasize that the higher income spouse wait till 70 if they can and get their highest benefit. Okay. So up till now, we've been talking about individual benefits. All right. But there's another calculation called spousal benefits. So we want to make sure that we understand there's two calculations, one spousal, one individual, and one spousal benefit. So if you recall, Social Security was designed in an era where a lot of women stayed at home and raised children, and that was great. And it was good that they designed it that way. So potentially, if that was your situation, or you didn't have much work credits, then you're still able to collect half of your spouse's benefit as your own benefit, which is really helpful. And the whole idea was just to provide some retirement support for folks that didn't have much or any of their own earnings record, and still get some Social Security benefit. So here's how it works. So spousal benefits are, so your spouse is entitled to 50% of the higher earner's primary insurance amount, okay, if they apply at the full retirement age. If they apply sooner, then it's reduced benefit. So for example, a higher income spouse files for their benefit at 66, as long as the second spouse files for their benefit also at 66, then they can get the full amount. So let's just say that the higher benefit was earning $2,000 a month. Then at their full retirement, then the second spouse can get $1,000 a month at, we'll just say her full retirement. So $3,000 a month coming into the family from Social Security. Okay, so they both have to file, just in my example, and the lower earning spouse must be at least 62. So you can file early, but it is a reduced amount. It's reduced under the 50%. So it's going to be, maybe 35 or 40%. So to maximize this strategy, to maximize the spousal benefit, both have to file, and both have to file at least at their full retirement age. So unlike the previous example, we showed you where the spouse can get earnings credits by waiting. I'm sorry, in the individual account calculation. That's not the case for spousal. So the spousal cannot get the 8% earnings by waiting past their full retirement age, unlike you can with your individual benefit. With your individual benefit, if you wait, 1 year past your full retirement, you get 8% increase, 2 years, 16, and so on and so forth, until you get to age 7. So a very important component of the Social Security payment system is that the spouse gets up to 50%. So let's look at an ex-spouse. So this is kind of funny, actually. Not funny, but I'll explain here in a second. So you must have been married at least 10 years. So hypothetically, someone could have been married to 3 folks at least 10 years, and those ex-spouses could be collecting benefits off of the same, we'll say, husband in this case. So it's kind of interesting that actually you can multiple divorcees can collect benefits from the same ex-spouse. So so the marriage has to last at least 10 years. Then you have to be divorced 2 years and the ex doesn't need to file. You just need to have some information on him, like a marriage certificate or her marriage certificate and a divorce decree. That's all really you have to show. You have to be at least 62 years old and not remarried. So married for 10 years, be at least 62 now, divorced more than 2 years, and not remarried. So it's certainly helpful, because again, if you had a situation where a spouse was home raising children and then there's a divorce, so they don't have much earnings to count towards Social Security, this is a great way to get them some benefits. And I just met a lady the other day who didn't realize that. So it certainly helped her manage her budget and get some more dollars in the household to pay for things. There's also a survivor benefit. So if a spouse passes away and the surviving spouse is at least 60 years old, you're entitled to a benefit. If the deceased spouse had started collecting their benefits early, then it's only at 82.5% of their benefit that can be claimed. If they retired, if they took their benefits at their full retirement age, then it's 100%. And if they waited, they actually got the 8% credits, then the the surviving spouse can get those as well. So it's age 60. So 62 was for early claim for individual, but for survivor benefits, it's age 60. If there's disability on the surviving spouse, then she or he can get benefits as young as age 50. So again, an important, and I just had a prospect ask me about that. You're going to turn 60 next year. Didn't even realize you could get benefits that early. And again, that just helps, in this case, her save for retirement. So just an important component to keep in mind when you're looking at Social Security. All right, how much will I receive? So for most folks, the Social Security component of retirement plan will be somewhere in the 30 to 50% range. It really depends. Social Security will say, anticipate it being about 40% of your cash flow needs, fulfilling that component. So it's a significant part. Let's just say it's a third for your retirement. When you're putting together your retirement budget and you have a third of that covered by a guaranteed income stream with a cost of living adjustment, that's very, very powerful. And then, some folks around here have pensions as well, be it state, county, or federal government's the most popular that we see. Then that obviously helps. And then third would be distributions from IRAs and Roth IRAs. Those are the 3 primary ways we see funding a retirement plan. But Social Security could very well be somewhere in the 30 to 50% range. It just varies depending on how much income is required to meet the budget, but a significant component. So the calculators, like I mentioned before, I'd highly recommend that you go onto ssa.gov if you haven't. They really improved the website. Look at your own statement. Make sure you understand what your age 62 benefit is, your full retirement age, 66 or 67, and your age 70. And hopefully you'll be compelled to wait as long as possible. Even if you can't wait till 70, if you can get another 8% by waiting another year or so, that could be really helpful in not only funding your retirement budget, but also in the surviving spouse funding his or her retirement budget. So this slide, the Social Security.gov, my statement works, but you don't even need that. You can just go ssa.gov, just make it simpler. And then I also, they've also updated the benefits calculator. If you just go to sa.gov/benefits and /calculators, or you can just poke around on the site and find it as well. If you can just remember ssa.gov, get your statement, look at it every year. It's really important that you do that for a couple of reasons. One is you want to make sure that your income is recorded correctly. Not a huge deal for W-2 employees, but for folks who have been in business for themselves or worked as a contractor, sometimes that's not reported correctly. So you can get that fixed. You just have to show them, I think it's just your W-2, end of your W-2, and they'll go in and fix it. So it's just really important that you look at that from time to time. Again, especially if you've had contract work, self-employment work, owned your own business, anything like that, that's when it tends to get not as clear. Okay, got a new question. If spouse passes away before age 60, is there a survivor benefit? So it's not dependent on when the spouse passes away. It's depending on the surviving spouse's age. So the surviving spouse has to be age 60 before a survivor benefit becomes available. So it's not dependent on when the deceased passed, but it's the age of the surviving spouse. It has to be at least age 60 or 50 if disabled. Okay. So what are some strategies for improving let's just say we have 5-10 years left to really make a big difference in this plan. What are some things that we can do? Well, again, I mentioned that this is a 35-year earnings calculation. So what can you do to improve your 35 years? So maybe you have 35 years, but obviously when you start working, it's a lower income range. If you're starting out, we're just new, so we're not going to get paid as much. So you obviously can work longer, right? That'll give you the ability to improve that calculation. If there are zeros in the 35, then working longer helps with that too. It also will replace any kind of older or smaller earnings amount. Okay, I got a note about taxes. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So that's one way to do it, is to make sure that you try to get 35 years in. That'll replace zeros. That'll replace younger or smaller earnings years that you have. Another one is, and we talked about this before, but apply at the optimal time. So again, there's a chart for age 66 and 67. You can see again that it's reduced amount if you apply at 62, and 62 is the earliest for either age that you can apply. And you can see how you get closer to your full amount. It goes up a little bit every year until you get to your full amount, which would be age 66 for the full retirement age of 66 and 67. And then you get the bonus credits, which are very, very motivating to wait. Again, if you're healthy and the longevity is on your side, certainly I would recommend not only to help you with your budget, but also for the surviving spouse to help make sure that he or her needs are met as well. Okay. So here's the thing, some people will say to me, well, I'll claim early and then I'll invest the rest. And my response back to that is, you got to really invest well. And, are you going to take the amount of risk you need to overcome that guarantee, through market returns? And I would bet you're not. As we age, as we get a little older, our appetite for risk diminishes. So if you look at the difference between a 66-year-old taken in at 62 and 70, it's a significant number. And the same for 67. You're trading 54% for 67, and really close to that, little bit above that for 66. So I'm not going to guarantee you those kind of numbers, but the Social Security Administration will. So really, talk to me about that, or think about that really closely before you would, decide to take early. So what's a couple strategies or another strategy for maximize that? Well, this is the general strategy. So again, we should chat about your specific situation, but in general, if the lower earning spouse's Social Security is going to be less than 50% of the higher earning, then both wait, both claim at 70. Okay. I would say at the very least, the lower earning spouse to claim at the full retirement age. Okay. If you don't feel like you can wait that long, that way the full retirement amount. So again, lower earning PIA is more than, I'm sorry, let me say that again, repeat that. If the lower earning spouse is more than 50% of the higher earning spouse, both wait, okay, till 70, or at the very least, wait till your full retirement. If the lower earning spouse is less than 50% of the higher earning spouse's benefit, then the lower claims early. And early would mean 62 in that case, because they're not getting that much more by waiting till the full retirement age. So just repeat that one more time. Lower earning spouse is earning more than 50% of the higher earning. This is, again, looking at the Social Security calculation, which you can get from ssa.gov, which you can get off your statement. Both wait till 70, or at the very latest, the lower earning wait till full retirement age. Okay. Sorry for that mix up. All right. So now let's look at the tax question. So when we start taking Social Security, it's going to fall into three buckets. No tax on Social Security, 50% of the Social Security is taxable, and 85% of your Social Security is taxable. So the way that works is you take your adjusted gross income, you add 1/2 of your Social Security, and you add back in tax-exempt interest from municipal bonds or any other tax-exempt EE bonds or anything like that. So your adjusted gross income plus 1/2 your Social Security benefit plus your tax-exempt interest from your bonds. And if your total is between $32,000 and $44,000, which is going to hit probably the bulk of us, most of us, then you're paying at least 50% tax on, you're paying, 50% of your Social Security is taxable. If that calculation of your AGI, 1/2 your Social Security, and tax-exempt interest is over $44,000, then 85% of your Social Security will be considered taxable income. So that's not your tax rate. That's just how much of your Social Security is included in your taxable calculation. Okay, so that's pretty important. Most folks are going to fall into that upper range, I would imagine, where 85% of your benefits are going to be subject to tax. And so you just have to plan for that. Now, it's different for singles. The thresholds are 25 to 34. That's where the 50%, where the 85% tax hits. So what are some strategies we can use to minimize the taxes? Well, we can lower our income. So how do we do that? Well, if we keep our expenses low, then that's less money we have to draw out of our IRAs, which IRA distribution is considered income. You can convert to Roth IRAs before you start taking Social Security. So these are all the things you want to think about between retirement and starting to take Social Security. Now, it may be that that's the same time. So some of these might not become available to you. But in general, between the time you retire and the time you can start taking Social Security is the sweet spot for a lot of these tax strategies. So is there a way to lower the income? Is there a way to take your required minimum distributions? Take distributions from your IRAs sooner, okay, because that's income. in a lower tax bracket between retirement and Social Security. That's your lowest tax bracket for most folks in retirement. Good time to take your IRA distribution if you need to. Consider converting to Roth IRAs, because when you take money out of the Roth IRA, that is not taxable to you. Certainly delaying Social Security, and then manage taxes through retirement. So what we teach our clients is that we really like for them to have 3 buckets to choose from: a pre-tax account, IRA, an after-tax account, retirement account, Roth IRA, and then a brokerage account. And that way you have 3 different types of taxed accounts, and it gives you the ability to draw down from one or the other depending on what the tax situation, because every administration changes, almost every administration changes the tax code. So it gives the ability to make some changes and still meet your income needs, but just pull it from different accounts in order to minimize your taxes. So hopefully that helped you with that tax question. But for most part, 50% of your Social Security will be taxable, or 85% will be taxable for most people. So to coordinate all your retirement income sources. So we talked a little bit about this before, but for most folks, their retirement picture looks like this. You have Social Security, you have IRAs, you may have a pension. Your 401ks have probably been rolled into the IRA, and then maybe you have a brokerage account or CDs or cash or something like that. Rental real estate might be other income to draw from. So this is our sweet spot. This is what we really do well at, in addition to other things, but the retirement planning, the retirement income planning scenario. So we're looking at, the years planning and preparing for retirement, the red zone, we would call it, and then the years after retirement. It's a different thought process. It's a different set of strategies you need to put into place to make sure that you have retirement income for your lifetime, and that you're also drawing it down tax efficiently. I hope you found this helpful. I hope we, gave you a little bit more information, a little bit of some strategies to work with, and then also some more information for you. If you got nothing else from this, please go to ssa.gov, log in, look at your statement, make sure it's accurate, make sure you understand those different numbers and how that's going to work into your plan. Please call me if you have any other questions. Thank you for joining us. We had a good crowd, very, very happy to provide this information, and please contact us again if we can be of more assistance. Have a great evening.